now we'll be taking you on the headlines making the news this morning. And with us, joining us now is Arise News lead analyst, Dr. Constance Ikoku. You're welcome, Dr. Constance.
Hello, Gbenga, good morning. How are you today?
I can see you beaming with a bright, lovely smile.
She is looking radiant this
Thank
morning.
you, thank
Good
you.
morning,
I have
Dr.
to,
Constance.
laughter makes life easier to go through.
And beautiful.
And good morning to you, Yolanda.
Vimbaya was saying the same thing. She's looking
I know,
very radiant
Vimbaya is
today.
sending whispers from Lagos.
Good morning, Vimbai. How are you?
Good morning, Dr. Constance. Fantastic as always. Thank you very much.
Okay, good to see you. All right, hello there and welcome to the program. We begin with this day newspaper. Then in this day, we're hearing from Alhaji Atiku Abubakar this morning, serial presidential aspirant and former vice president of Nigeria, who has now decamped to the African Democratic Congress. He tells us here that ADC is leading a potent coalition and will shock the world in 2027. The opposition intends to change the status quo due to nationwide degeneration and unprecedented thievery under this government. And he reconfirms suspicions that he will contest the presidential election again. In 2027, that will be his 7th attempt at the presidency. He ran previously in 1993, 2007, 2011, 2015, 2019, and 2023. Well, is ADC the third force we've been waiting for? And this may foreclose Peter Obi's chance in that party, except he wants to run as vice president. Gbenga, your thoughts quickly.
Yeah, a lot is happening in the race to the 2027 build-up, and the equation seems to be changing. With the coming up of the ADC, we've seen Alhaji Atiku Abubakar just recently reconfirming, and we've never been left in doubt from his body language. We've seen in between the lines, and we've read the writing on the wall that clearly Alhaji Atiku Abubakar will be contesting come 2027 for whatever platform that but he is determined and desperate for that ticket. So the ADC coming on board as a rescue party and as a third force, well, it comes with a lot of skepticism, political skepticism now. First, the foundation of the party, which has been questioned.
Gbenga, is it really the third force? Because it's the same people that moved from other parties.
That's the point I was heading to.
Yes.
First, there is a legal foundational matter where the old structure, some led by Dumebi Kachiku and some other factions within the party, have questioned the new leadership of the party. So how they got into this mix is another question. And now there's a big question, the question of consensus. Who would carry the party? We have seen big gladiators within the party like El Rufai, Amechi. We have seen Peter Obi coming with the obedient movement surge, and now Alhaji Atiku Abubakar. So within these four powerful and strong gladiators, we would like to see the political machinery that will be deployed that would not lead to disaffection within the party and that would not lead to an immediate implosion. But now the ADC, apologies, but factually, is standing on a ticking time bomb if all these issues are not resolved urgently.
All right. A lot of anticipation. Some would say that Nigerians are quite tired of the same politicians running circles in different parties.
Recycling.
All right. Let's take a second story from this day. Federal Accounts Allocation Committee FAC Reconciliation, NNPC, FIRS, others remit 1.49 trillion naira arrears to Federation in 6 months. This news item is relevant when viewed against the background of government's mounting debt obligations and revenue shortfall. It also shows government's determination to improve management of public finances as well as closing loopholes that currently exist with revenue-generating agencies. Vimbai, let me come to you. Clearly, a clampdown on underpayments and remittances from agencies that has happened over the years.
Absolutely. This story exposes so many issues. I think the fundamental issue being our fiscal vulnerability. Number one, if you look at our current reality, which is that we're in 2025 operating two budgets simultaneously and using money generated in 2025 to try and, finish up our 2024 budget, which has been pushed forward, which is a total anomaly, because usually when you see a country running a concurrent budgets of different years, it's in a situation of crisis. In countries like Lebanon, in countries like Libya, post-war. So this is a major anomaly. Now, if we see that these arrears are being cleared, that's a step in the right direction. However, we now ask, have the structural changes that need to be made to ensure that this doesn't become a recurring factor, have those changes been made? Because we see that most of the budget is swallowed by recurrent expenditure. Very little now goes to capital expenditure, capital projects. If you go to the ground, if you go to the various constituencies right now, what you find is very devastating, because you'll find that there are contractors that are doing work, but they're not able to get paid. Many individuals, many companies have even gone to get bank loans to finance constituency projects that they have been awarded through the due process of the system, and now they can't get get their payment for the work that has been done or services rendered. So that in itself is creating a huge lag in us trying to achieve this infrastructural gap that we're trying to do so aggressively. But what's holding us back? It's our fiscal vulnerability. Now, what's happening inside the agencies and the parastatals and the various companies that are supposed to be remitting to government? Like you said, underpayment. We have issues bordering around corruption. So the system in itself is hugely vulnerable. And yes, this is positive that we see the arrears being cleared. However, it doesn't address the foundational issues, which is that we need to be able to create a system that is transparent, accountable, and can move the necessary payments to where they need to be moved in a swift and efficient way.
Okay, touching on that recurrent expenditure, and that's why you then understand people, going against the recent plan or attempt to review the salaries of public officers. Let's look at Leadership newspaper this morning. There, the leader and founder of the Economic Freedom Fighters, EFF, Julius Malema, was in Nigeria over the weekend for the Nigerian Bar Association conference held in Enugu. He was feisty as ever, calling out imperialists, challenging African nations to break free from colonial economic dependency in order to build a more self-sufficient future. He acknowledged Nigeria's role in his country's apartheid struggle, urged closer ties between the two countries, and unequivocally said xenophobia is anti-African unity. He also called for free movement in Africa, free visa travel between South Africa and Nigeria. I mean, you have to listen to him. It was classic Malema, speaking truth to power. But in that same conference also, we heard that the Sultan of Sokoto, in his speech, who spoke against what he termed purchasable commodity in relation to justice and judiciary in the country. A lot said in one conference, Yolanda, and this resonates among Nigerians, everything that was said there.
Absolutely. Let me touch first.
And even Africans.
Yeah. Yes, very true. Let me touch first on what Julius Malema spoke on. He's such an activist, classical in how he spoke, and what he said is essentially correct. Africa needs to work together, especially Nigeria and South Africa being two big elephants of Africa. But unfortunately, do South Africans want to work with Nigerians? At the moment, let us not forget that there is this Operation Dudula that's going on in South Africa. A lot of people are not talking openly about how bad the situation is, where foreigners, especially Nigerians and other similar countries, are being targeted and being asked to leave. Hospitals are being targeted by these activists saying that these Nigerians should leave the country. So if the people themselves are showing such a pushback against Nigerians, how then do we expect to move past that and start having our economies work together? It is a known fact that Nigeria was in the forefront of the apartheid, of fighting against the apartheid, where even Nelson Mandela, even after he came out of prison, visited Nigeria to thank the country for standing with South Africa. And we need to just remember those lessons from history and be able to take those to, you know, create this kind of economic synergy to be able to work together and move past the problems that we are having today. Speaking on the mixed reactions of the Sultan, maybe one of my colleagues can speak on that as well, but I just want to say this. There was a lot of truth in what he spoke, and it's debatable. A lot of people who have fallen on the wrong side have seen how what the Sultan is saying is real and is true. They've been let down by the justice system in Nigeria. But then there are also people who argue and say that don't paint everybody black. You know, there are also some good eggs in the basket left.
Definitely. I mean, it's a conference, so it is a place for dialogue and to review what has been happening within the judiciary, within the sector. So they're also going to come up with ways to make sure that we have a better justice system. All right, let's move on to Daily Sun newspaper. Soaring drug costs push Nigerians to unsafe treatments. Prices surge by 300% as experts warn of looming health crisis. Also on the rise are incidents of risky self-medication, abuse of herbal remedies, and the belief in the potency of miracle cures, charm, and sorcery, especially in rural communities. Let's pull up the Punch, please. There it captures it a bit differently. In the Punch, sick and stranded presidential order fails to curb soaring drug prices. I mean, this clearly reflects the times. Almost everything is out of reach. Life has become very expensive. And it's not the end of it. It's going to get worse, I reckon.
Yeah, the ill wind blowing in Nigeria's health sector is quite appalling. And it's quite unfortunate that despite the resolve shown by this administration, we are yet to have an effective implementation strategy for what is being pronounced and what is being implemented. There seems to be a yawning gap. If you are making any policy as serious as health policy, you should be able to follow it up with implementation structures. In 2024, this administration announced an executive order that was to cover tariff, VAT, and custom duties of imported medical items, including machines and all that will be used to facilitate the development of our local industry. But what has happened? I've always lamented and raised the alarm of the country being submerged under what I called a black market economy. In the sense that a black market economy is that a kind of system that deprives the citizen from getting a direct benefit of what is officially provided for the benefit of the citizenry. And that is where we see agents coming in between because of their own gains to stand between and thereby raise the stake or the prices. You talked about 300% increment in the health facilities, and that has really crippled Nigeria's local manufacturing. You could see the body language of Mr. President, in all fairness to him, appointing two coordinating ministers. One surprisingly came from the health ministry, appointing him as the coordinating minister of health and social welfare. That shows that the health is primary, it's very key to the President Tinubu's reform agenda. But be that as it may, we look at the Maputo Declaration that calls for 15% implementation of the budget to health. So are we paying lip service to health reforms, or we are really serious? Because humanity, as I've consistently maintained, has to be taken seriously, and we need to start from prioritizing our health needs.
Okay. Abuja Enquirer this morning, human traffickers find Abuja a safe haven. According to NAPTIP, they've rescued over 100 victims, and that's within 8 months. And the second story, Kano government tackles FCTA over repatriation of destitutes and beggars. So the story goes that these traffickers are using Abuja as a hub to to transfer trafficked people to other states. And operatives of the National Agency for the Prohibition of Trafficking Persons, NAPTIP, are on it. And as for beggars, Abuja Street used to be devoid of beggars until a few years now. So the FCT authorities apparently are trying to rid the capital of these beggars and sending them back to their states of origin. And so Kano State government has a problem with that. It says that this is being done without proper documentation and coordination and handover processes. So at least they don't seem to be against the beggars being repatriated. What they're saying is that they would like it to be done in a better manner. And as for NAPTIP, we're hearing that even that, it's connected to a travel agency which is recruiting people and promising them jobs abroad only for them to be trafficked from there. Yolanda, any thought on this story?
Yes, I think we should look at the root causes of human trafficking, and that is usually down to poverty and a lack of education. Now, to prevent these things, such as human trafficking, we would need to address these problems. Obviously, when it comes to people trying to migrate to other countries as well, people are looking for greener pastures. The economy is not easy. People are finding it really hard to survive. And so desperate times calls for desperate measures, unfortunately. And those measures can end people up in very salty situations.
Yeah, and many of these victims from different states, they've never been to Abuja before. And so when they are promised that if they come to Abuja, it will be a chance for them to go abroad, they grab it without knowing that they're going to be trafficked. All right, Vanguard newspaper here. A popular lawyer, Femi Falana, is asking the EFCC to return recovered 32.7 billion naira, then $445,000 loot to National Social Investment Program Agency. The money was recovered from officials of the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs and Disaster Management. Again, questions being raised on the whereabouts of monies reclaimed from dodgy public officials. And secondly, in the Vanguard, the economy, industrialization in jeopardy as agric manufacturing sink, and as the country loses 1.2 trillion naira in 5 years. And finally, in that same Vanguard, ADC to Tinubu declares state of emergency in Katsina, Zamfara over insecurity. This is in regard to the wave of attacks that has claimed over 140 lives in the last 2 months. All top stories. Should Katsina and Zamfara go the way of Rivers with the military administrator? And on industrialization, experts say it should be at least 40% contribution to GDP, which we're not having. At current, it is 19.19%. Vimbai, you can go ahead with any of the stories.
All right, let me begin with Femi Falana, SAN, and this very important call that he is making, because the graft allegations in the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs were big, bold headlines for a very long time. Suddenly, the issues have dissipated. They are no longer in the front burner. We're not getting updates from the powers that be. And even those who were implicated and, yet to clear their names, if I may use that term, we're seeing them getting involved in some political activities here and there, rubbing shoulders with the powers that be. So what is the status of the case? Is there going to be a conviction? Is there going to be an acquittal? How far is the investigation? That's number one on the individuals. Now, on the money involved, in the recent report from the IMF, they said that our conditional cash transfer has only been 30% successful. This is the initiative by the government where they said each household will be getting 25,000 naira. Now, we have this 32 billion, I believe, according to this report, that has been recovered from the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs. Why are we not using this money for social spending, to lighten the burden on the pockets of Nigerians that are heavily weighed down at the moment? So this money has been seized. What is the status of it? What is it being used for? So that's on one. Very quickly, I'll touch on industrialization, which is a topic that we've been harping on and on about. When you look at the state of our economy, in economics, you cannot have a developing economy that is dependent on services, which is our current state of our affairs. Our financial services sector specifically is driving economic growth. And now what you have is you have a gap between primary production, our agriculture, agriculture and our oil production. There's no value addition happening, and then we're going straight to services, and the economy cannot grow unless we do that. And I love that this is something that Julius Malema also touched on yesterday when he said we need to industrialize. This is what will get us as Africans from this point we are to the next point, when we can add value, when we stop sending our raw materials out there, and we can now refine and send finished goods around the continent and to the rest of the world.
Okay, thank you so much, Vimbai. We'll see quickly other headlines. Daily Independent. There, credit stagnation threatens Nigeria's economic recovery. By-elections, opposition parties express concern over 2027. Let's pull up The Guardian, please. Again, Malema, Africa's future dependent on political economy in Nigeria, South Africa, that is trying to see that both countries work together. We have that story on Yoruba elders appeal to Oni Alafin to end rift. And MPCL deducts 235.6 billion naira in 7 months for oil search in North Frontier basins. I thought we already found oil in the north. We've been on that for a very long time, looking for oil in that region. Okay, we have one more paper. Daily Trust. Zamfara meeting backlash against PDP governors. 6 die, 3 missing in fresh Sokoto boat mishap. Let's move to the international headlines. Daily Graphic. Ahead of Akwatia by-election, police seized guns, ammunition, 5 suspects, including a Chinese bastard, as a part of intensified security measures. Sounds exactly like Nigeria. The Citizen newspaper, Africa Resized, a campaign by African advocacy groups, is gaining momentum as they urge organizations and schools to adopt the equal Earth projection, which is said to more accurately display the size of the continent. You know that currently we use the Mercator projection, which is, shows Greenland, and Africa appearing to be the same size when it is not. And then the Daily Telegraph this morning, Trump cuts off Kyiv's long-range missiles. The Independent newspaper revealed obesity crisis costing UK £107 billion every year. Daily Mail, Andrew facing bombshell new Epstein book. And then finally, the Times newspaper has a photo of the popular Notting Hill Carnival, which has been running for more than 50 years, a show of culture, diversity, and unity. A similar photo appears in The Guardian, if we can put that quickly up. What a stunning event. Yolanda, any thoughts on any of these very quickly?
Just very quickly in a few seconds. It's a little bit disappointing that with the resizing of the map, they chose to mention that Greenland is 14 times into Africa, instead of mentioning that the entire world, the landmass, fits into Africa, which is very jarring and very shocking to find out. But this is information that has been in the books for as long as history can remember. And so I'm glad that we are now looking at this and putting things into perspective, such as really the size of who we are as a continent, and second of all, just the magnitude of the resources that we have.
All right, that's all we can take on the paper review today.
Thank you.
All right, well, that's all we have time for today on Daybreak. I'm Vimbai Mutiniri Ekweyong.
And I'm Benga Ashir saying, do have a most pleasant day. Goodbye from me.
Thanks again, Dr. Constance. I'm Yolanda Robert. Please do keep it here on Arise News. The morning show is next. Goodbye.